Picture yourself standing on the floor of a glittering casino at 2 a.m. on a Saturday. The air hums with the sound of slot machines, dice hitting felt, and chips stacking. You're watching thousands of people voluntarily hand you money, and the mathematics guarantee that most of it stays with you. You're not selling them anything. You're not convincing them of anything. They walked in knowing the odds are against them and they're playing anyway. The roulette wheel spins. The cards flip, the slots flash, and every single outcome is programmed to tilt slightly in your favor. You've built a business where the product is hope, the customer pays for the privilege of losing, and the government gave you a license to print money in exchange for tax revenue. It's legal. It's regulated. It's profitable beyond belief. That's the version everyone sees. Here's the version they don't. A casino is not a gambling business. It's a real estate and entertainment complex that monetizes statistical probability, alcohol consumption, and human psychology at industrial scale. The actual gambling, the cards, dice, and slot machines, those are just the mechanism. The real business model is getting people through the door, keeping them inside as long as possible, and ensuring that every minute they stay, the house edge grinds them down mathematically. You're not hoping people lose. You don't need to. The math does it automatically. A slot machine programmed at 92% payback doesn't mean players get 92 cents on the dollar. It means that over millions of spins, the machine returns 92% of all money inserted. Individual players lose everything. The house keeps 8% of total handle. Scale that across 2,000 machines running 18 hours a day, and you're extracting $400,000 to $800,000 per day in pure mathematical edge. Add table games, restaurants, hotel rooms, and entertainment, and you're not running a casino. You're running a sophisticated cash extraction operation disguised as leisure. Once you understand that, everything else makes sense. Let's start with the number that ends most people's fantasy immediately. A mid-sized regional casino costs $150 million to $500 million to build from the ground up. A flagship destination property in Las Vegas or Macau runs $1 billion to $4 billion. The Cosmopolitan in Las Vegas cost $3.9 billion. Wynn Resorts Encore Boston Harbor cost $2.6 billion. These are not hotels with slot machines. These are vertical cities with custom fax systems, surveillance infrastructure that would make intelligence agencies jealous, and gold-plated everything. Before we get to the revenue model, there's a cost almost nobody budgets for: the gaming license and regulatory compliance infrastructure. In Nevada, a gaming license requires background checks that go back 3 generations. Every investor, every board member, every person with more than 5% equity gets investigated by the Nevada Gaming Control Board. The process takes 12 to 24 months and costs $500,000 to $2 million in legal and consulting fees. In some jurisdictions, you're also paying for the license itself. In Massachusetts, the 3 regional casino licenses were auctioned competitively. Wynn paid $85 million just for the right to apply, then spent $35 million on community agreements before construction started. Now the build. Land acquisition in a licensed gaming jurisdiction runs $20 million to $200 million depending on location. Construction costs for a resort-style casino average $600 to $1,200 per square foot. A 300,000 square foot facility is $180 million to $360 million in construction alone. Gaming equipment, slot machines, table game layouts, card shufflers, chips, surveillance systems, runs $40 million to $100 million for a mid-sized property. Each slot machine costs $15,000 to $25,000. A casino floor with 2,000 slots is $30 million to $50 million before you deal a single hand of blackjack. Here's where the naive version of this plan starts to fall apart. Staffing and pre-opening expenses. You need 1,200 to 2,500 employees for a regional casino. Dealers, pit bosses, surveillance operators, security, hospitality staff, valets, cage cashiers. Pre-opening training and recruitment costs $8 million to $15 million. You're hiring people months before opening and paying them to learn procedures, practice dealing, and get licensed by gaming regulators. Then there's working capital. You need $30 million to $80 million in cash reserves to cover the first 90 to 180 days of operations before revenue stabilizes. Add debt service on your construction loans and you're burning $3 million to $7 million per month before you open the doors. The total? $200 million on the absolute low end for a small regional property. Realistically, $400 million to $700 million for a competitive facility. For a strip-quality resort, you're over $1 billion before you see a single dollar of revenue. That number sounds wrong. It isn't. Most people who fail here don't fail for dramatic reasons. They fail because of three structural traps that look manageable until they're not. The first trap is regulatory capture costs. You didn't just buy a business. You bought a relationship with a government regulator that controls whether you continue operating. Every gaming jurisdiction requires annual licensing fees, compliance audits, and regulatory assessments. In Nevada, you're paying 6.75% of gross gaming revenue directly to the state as gaming tax, plus another 1% to 2% in local fees. On $300 million in annual gaming revenue, that's $20 million to $26 million in taxes before you touch federal income tax. But the hidden cost is operational compliance. You need a full-time compliance department, attorneys, auditors, investigators, to ensure you never violate gaming regulations. One violation can cost you your license. Sheldon Adelson's Las Vegas Sands paid $47 million in fines in 2013 for anti-money laundering violations. That's the cost of one mistake. Budget for $1 million to $8 million annually just to stay compliant. The second trap is the cannibalization curse. When you build a casino, you're not creating new gamblers. You're fighting over the same regional pool of customers. If you're opening in a market with existing casinos, you're stealing revenue from competitors who will fight back with promotions, free play, and comps. The total market doesn't grow proportionally. It fragments. Operators in saturated markets like Atlantic City saw property revenue drop 40% to 60% between 2006 and 2016 as new properties opened. You built a $400 million facility projecting $250 million in annual revenue, but the actual market only supports $180 million because three competitors are doing the same thing. You're underwater on debt service within 18 months. The third trap is discretionary spending volatility. Gambling is the first thing consumers cut during recessions. It's pure discretionary spending. The 2008 financial crisis crushed casino revenue. Las Vegas Strip gaming revenue dropped from $6.8 billion in 2007 to $5.5 billion in 2010, a 19% decline. Properties that leveraged heavily to build during the boom went bankrupt. The Cosmopolitan, Fontainebleau, and Echelon projects all collapsed or were sold at massive losses. You don't control the economy, but the economy controls whether your customers have disposable income to lose at your tables. Here's the part that changes how you see this entire business. Casinos make money from four distinct revenue streams, and only one of them is actually gambling. First, gaming revenue. This is slots, table games, poker rooms, and sports betting. Slots generate 65% to 75% of gaming revenue for most casinos. The house edge on slots ranges from 2% to 15% depending on denomination and location. High-limit slots have tighter holds around 2% to 5%. Penny slots can hold 10% to 15%. Table games generate the rest. Blackjack has a house edge of 0.5% to 2% depending on rules. Roulette is 5.26%. Craps ranges from 1.4% to 16% depending on the bet. The key metric is not house edge. It's handle, the total amount wagered. A slot machine that holds 8% on $2 million in annual handle generates $160,000 in revenue. Multiply that by 2,000 machines and you're at $320 million in slot revenue alone. Second, hotel revenue. Rooms are often comped to gamblers, but paid rooms generate $150 to $400 per night. A 500-room hotel at 85% occupancy and $220 average daily rate generates $34 million annually. Margins on hotel revenue run 60% to 70% because incremental room costs are minimal once the property is built. Third, food and beverage. Restaurants, bars, nightclubs, and buffet. F&B revenue runs $80 to $150 per hotel guest. A property hosting 600,000 room nights annually generates $48 million to $90 million in F&B revenue. Margins are thinner, 20% to 35%, but the volume compensates. Fourth, entertainment and retail. Concert venues, shops, spas. This is filler revenue but meaningful at scale. Call it $15 million to $40 million annually for a mid-sized property. Now let's do the math. Let's say you're running a regional casino with 2,000 slot machines, 60 table games, and a 400-room hotel. Annual gaming revenue, $280 million. Hotel revenue, $28 million. F&B revenue, $55 million. Entertainment and other, $22 million. Total revenue, $385 million. Now subtract costs. Gaming taxes and regulatory fees, $25 million. Labor, $95 million. Operating expenses, utilities, marketing, maintenance, supplies $110 million. Debt service on $450 million in construction loans at 6.5% interest, $29 million annually. Total costs, $259 million. Net income, $126 million. That's a 32.7% net margin on $385 million in revenue. Now we get to the number that actually determines everything. Reinvestment rate. Casinos must constantly refresh. Slot machines are replaced every 4 to 7 years. Carpets, furniture, rooms, everything wears out faster in a 24/7 operation. You're spending $15 million to $30 million annually on capital improvements just to stay competitive. Your actual distributable cash flow drops to $96 million to $111 million. On a $450 million investment, that's a 21% to 25% annual return if everything goes right. These numbers are based on industry averages and should be treated as a framework for thinking, not a guarantee of any particular outcome. But that's the model when it works. Let's talk about Revel Casino in Atlantic City. Revel opened in 2012 with $2.4 billion in construction costs. It was stunning, glass towers, modern design, top-tier restaurants. It targeted a younger, more affluent demographic. No smoking, no tour buses, premium everything. It failed spectacularly. Revel filed for bankruptcy twice in 2 years and closed in 2014 after operating for just 26 months. Why? They built for a customer that didn't exist in Atlantic City. The actual market was retirees on tour buses who wanted cheap buffet and smoking sections. Revel's costs were so high they needed $500 million in annual revenue just to break even, but the market couldn't support it. This is not a story about bad luck. This is a story about a structural mismatch between capital deployed and market reality. Now take the Venetian Macau. Sheldon Adelson opened it in 2007 for $2.4 billion, the same cost as Revel. The Venetian Macau became one of the most profitable casinos in the world, generating over $3 billion annually at its peak. Why? Adelson understood the customer. Chinese high rollers wanted luxury, status, and baccarat. He gave them 870 table games, heavily weighted toward baccarat, gold everything, designer retail, and VIP junket relationships. He built for the market that existed, not the one he wished existed. The Venetian Macau printed money for a decade. Here's what the smartest operators in this industry do differently. They don't just run casinos. They monetize adjacencies. First, junket commissions and VIP rebates. In Asian markets, casinos pay commissions to junket operators, middlemen who bring high rollers. Commissions run 1% to 1.5% of total bets placed, not money lost. A junket brings in a player who wagers $10 million over a weekend. You pay the junket $100,000 to $150,000 even if the player wins. Why? Because over time, the house edge extracts profit and the volume justifies the commission. Macau casinos generate 40% to 60% of revenue through junket relationships. Second, non-gaming real estate and retail. The Forum shops at Caesars Palace generate over $1,500 per square foot in retail sales, among the highest in the US. Casinos lease space to luxury brands and take a percentage of revenue. It's pure margin once the mall is built. Third, convention and event space. A 100,000 square foot convention center can generate $12 million to $25 million annually hosting corporate events, trade shows, and conferences. Attendees fill hotel rooms, eat at restaurants, and gamble. It's a customer acquisition engine disguised as event space. Here is the honest math, not the pitch deck version, the real version. Good year scenario. The economy is strong. Your regional casino hits $385 million in revenue. Gaming taxes, $25 million. Labor and operations, $205 million. Debt service, $29 million. Capex and reinvestment, $20 million. Net cash flow, $106 million. On a $450 million investment, that's a 23.6% annual return. Exceptional. Bad year scenario. Recession hits. Discretionary spending collapses. Your revenue drops to $290 million. Gaming taxes, $19 million. Labor compresses slightly to $180 million because you cut staff, but fixed costs remain. Operations, $95 million. Debt service, $29 million. Capex deferred but critical maintenance still required, $12 million. Total costs, $335 million. You're losing $45 million for the year. You're burning cash and negotiating with lenders to restructure debt. Stay with this because the final calculation changes everything. The gap between those two scenarios is $151 million in annual cash flow swing. What causes it? Consumer confidence. Employment rates. Factors entirely outside your control. You can optimize operations. You cannot control macroeconomic conditions. The person who wins in this business is not the one who loves gambling or understands odds. The person who wins has access to patient, massive capital and operates in a jurisdiction with limited competition and favorable regulatory terms. They're politically connected enough to navigate licensing. They understand customer psychology and build for the market that exists, not aspirational demographics. They see the casino as a real estate asset that appreciates while generating cash flow. The counterintuitive truth: the best operators are not gamblers. They're actuaries who understand that wealth in this business comes from volume, not variance. So let's go back to that casino floor at 2 a.m. The lights still flash. The chips still stack. The mathematics still tilt in your favor. But now you see it clearly. That glittering floor isn't a game. It's a $450 million statistical engine designed to extract $300 million annually from customers who know they'll lose. It works until the economy turns, a competitor opens, or the regulators decide your fees just doubled. The house always wins, except when it goes bankrupt. And in this business, both things can be true at the same time. You're not buying a casino. You're buying a license to mathematically harvest human hope at industrial scale, and the only question that matters is whether you can afford to lose $500 million finding out if you were right.